Live from Toronto, Canada, The Conspiracy Show with Richard Serrin from Zoomer Radio, AM 740.
And welcome to the Audio Imaginarium. Come on in, weary traveler. Hang your cloak on a peg and grab a stool, and then come gather around the fire. There are stories to be told, and you are among friends. What did the decisions you make in childhood have to do with your relationships right now? Everything. According to my guest in the first hour, Debbie Papadakis from the Hypno Healing Institute here in Toronto is here in the first hour to talk about how hypnosis can heal. Yes, the voice is a little scratchy. Excuse me. Did coast all weekend, and of course my weekday afternoon show. Boy, oh boy, I hope it holds out. Anyway, we're going to talk about relationships and how everything, again, according to Debbie Papadakis, relates to how what we learned when we were children, what we heard, what we saw, what we perceived. And that all relates to how we relate to our parents, our siblings, our partner, to money, and to ourselves. Her new book is The Relationship Code, Heal Your Wounded Heart. Coming up in the second hour, Jim Perry is host and creative producer of a critically acclaimed podcast documentary series on the paranormal. It's called Euphomet. And he's here to preview some of his adventures of high strangeness in the Pacific Northwest, or the Pacific North Weird, I believe Jim calls it. And we're going to hear a few clips from season 4 of Euphomet. And I'll tell you what, these stories are pretty scary. They're real, and you're going to hear little snippets. That's Jim Perry coming up in the second hour, host of Euphomet. It's a great podcast. Carlos Cagina is my technical producer, and Ryan White is the live stream producer. And we are live streaming on my YouTube channel, Strange Planet. Be sure to check out my brand new radio program on News Talk Saga 960 AM. The all-new Richard Serrin Show is heard weekday afternoons from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern, Saga 960 AM. And you can stream it live at saga960am.ca. Saga is spelled S-A-U-G-A. S-A-U-G-A as in Mrs. Saga. Saga960am.ca. All right, again, our childhood experiences. They impact our lives, including our relationships. We form decisions based upon what we heard, saw, felt, and perceived, which correlates to our successes and failures. If we can learn what the underlying causes are, how they are impacting our relationships, then we can transform them. Debbie Papadakis is here to tell us about the workings of the subconscious and conscious minds, how limiting beliefs originate, and how these affect our relationships. Our relationships, again, with our parents, our partner, our siblings, even our relationships with money, and of course, our most important relationship, that's with ourselves. Debbie is a registered psychotherapist, clinical hypnotherapist, relationship coach, Reiki master, NGH and IMDHA certified hypnosis and pain management instructor, past life and life between lives practitioner, and also a speaker, author, founding director of Hypno Healing Institute. And she's been practicing since 1995. She's been featured in Oprah's O magazine. Her O's a big book of happiness. And she is the author of a brand new book. I'm going to hold that up for the live stream here. It's called The Relationship Code. Over there, there's the camera. The Relationship Code, Heal Your Wounded Heart. Debbie Papadakis, welcome to The Conspiracy Show. How are you?
Hi, Rita. Thank you. Wonderful to hear from you, and wonderful introduction. I'm fantastic. Thank you. Happy to be here.
All right, and she's holding up the book as well. Great. So hopefully my voice is going to hold out. Anyway, so it all begins with childhood, right? Our relationships, everything that we hear, we see, we perceive as children, that informs all of our future decisions and our future relationships, right?
That's exactly what I think. I have been working in this field for 25 years. I combine psychotherapy and hypnotherapy together, and I have seen, I don't know how many thousands and thousands of people, and 90% of my work, no matter what issue you have, if that can be relationships, that can be money issue, that can be health issue, that can be many, many different issues. Usually we have to look at what emotions are connected to these issues, what beliefs are connected to these issues, and we trace those back to the root cause, the source, the beginning of that. And most times we find that these beliefs, emotions, and all these feelings are started at the very young age. And once we heal the relationship between our parents and our maybe early time teachers or conflicts we had in the school, depends basically what you felt as a child, you carried it throughout your whole life. As an adult, you realize that I understand everybody did the best thing they know how. Everybody is, they're fantastic parents, fantastic people. They're trying to help me. But that is the logical part of your brain that justifies that. If we felt as a child unwanted or unhappy or very weak and didn't feel good about it, that doesn't mean our parents weren't good to us. It just means our perception to that timing,
right, now,
it affected us, and
okay,
therefore we felt alone or we
right.
felt unloved. Meantime, that has nothing to do maybe with reality. Maybe it does in some cases, but in most cases it doesn't have anything to do with it.
So if I'm 2 years old,
they have to be busy with everything, and you thought nobody's looking after me.
All right, so let's say I'm 2 years old. And I don't remember when I was 2 years old. I can remember when I was 4 or 5, but I have no memories of when I was 2. And something happened to me when I was 2. Maybe a babysitter, got cross at me, and I cried. Is that incident going to somehow impact my relationship, even though I don't remember it?
Yes, that's right. You don't, first of all, the reason we use hypnosis is because we can access the subconscious part of the mind through hypnosis, because then we can recall these memories. Now, when we call these memories, I want to make very clear, sometimes those memories are just a perception of the time. It doesn't mean that the intention was all bad. Sometimes they're trying to discipline us and in order to help us out. But in reality, we didn't know the difference because we're children, and we felt that, I can call it trauma, I can call it a negative emotion or limiting. Then we create these limiting beliefs according to that. And then you feel unsupported, unloved. And many times that may have nothing to do with reality. The problem is you took these feelings and you carry them throughout your whole life, and those feelings from your childhood runs your life today. And once you see people they're trying to do something, they're trying to be successful, they're trying all these things, and then they fell back, or people trying to be on a diet and they go for 2 weeks and they go back into the streets and all that. People who trying very hard to work to make money, there's got to be some belief around that is according to your results. So this is why through my work, I take people, I love to use the hypnotherapy part, because we can access information that you don't even remember. In fact, we go even back further. We go to past lives, we go to genealogy, we go into the womb, and the perception you have of these times, as long as we change that, and the good news is that we have ways to change that. The great news is that we can change those emotions and beliefs through some techniques that we use. And this is why I wrote the book, and I put a lot of exercises in the book, because I would like people to do some work on themselves if they can. Right. Otherwise, it's great to find a therapist. We can help you. And this is what I do for 25 years, and it's been very successful. I have people from all over the world. I do a lot of phone work or Zoom work or whatever that is, and we have a great, great success.
Okay, so you mentioned that through regression therapy, through hypnosis regression, you can take an individual back to the womb. Now, what could have possibly happened in the womb to someone that would affect their present day relationships? How would that happen?
Okay. How that happened? In most cases, we have the mother and the father is fighting, and the mother is crying, is upset, is stressed. She's feeling stressed about finances. She's feeling stressed about I'm going to have another child and how I'm going to handle it. So it is all this stress. The child picks it up, and I had cases where I took the person back, and there a few things happened, and the person went back to the mother and said, "Did this happen when you were pregnant?" And a number of times the parents said, "Yes, that happened."
So subconsciously, we carry these memories around from even the womb, you're saying, and
Yes.
they impact on our relationships. It's a wonder then, Debbie, that we're all not messed up, right? Because something happens to all of us at some point. If are we really that vulnerable or that easily traumatized?
Well, we are easily traumatized, but as we grow up, we learn techniques and ways to deal with it for survival reasons. So as we grow up, it becomes less and less. However, sometimes if we find similar situations that we experience in the childhood, that can activate itself, and all of a sudden we are going into this negativity, and we go into this depression, we go into this anxieties, we're going into fears, and you name it. So we are vulnerable, and but we also have strong part of us that can help us to survive. And I don't know how else I can say. When you're talking about the womb, I take many people to the womb, and I'm amazing all the time, amazed how the brilliance of the soul of a person, the description they're giving you, and if the mother and father are fighting, or the mother feels not so great about herself, if they have other issues, the child feels it. This is, if I send a message to anybody in the world, is we have to be very careful when the mother is pregnant to communicate with the baby, to send love to that baby, to tell the baby that we love you, we are excited for you, you're welcome in the world, because a lot of babies comes to the world feeling I'm unwanted. And those feelings, then the person carries them with them. I had many situations where the mother and father are fighting over money, and the child creates that belief that money is not a good thing because creates fights. And if my parents are fighting because I'm going to create I'm going to acquire this extra money or whatever, then they feel I'm going to be very good. I'm not going to create a trouble. And money is not a good thing. So what happened is they grow up and they wanted to create money and wealth and all that. And all of a sudden they feel so in conflict with those old beliefs. And all of a sudden they're working hard, yet they may create, or they may overspend, they may, all kinds of issues can come up, and in that level they cannot create their dreams.
So subconsciously they're undermining themselves. They don't realize what they're doing, but because they have this subconscious, this memory of their parents fighting over money, therefore they equate the fighting with money. Therefore, they really don't want the money, but they don't realize that. We're operating again on a subconscious level, and they are doing things to sabotage themselves to make money.
Yes, and then they are in this fight between I want to, but I can't, or I'm not good enough, I'm good enough, I deserve, I don't deserve. And this inner world creates so many limitations in people's life, and I see it every day, and my heart breaks for them, but the good news is we can clear those things. And then I work with people for every industry, including the Bay Street people who who their issue is how to create more millions of people, those people. And I tell you, when they remove their beliefs and emotions and feelings and things that are sabotaging themselves, they create incredible, they have transformation with their finances and how they see how they see money, how they respect money, how the money comes to them easily. In other
I'm just
words,
trying to imagine this, Debbie. I'm just trying to imagine this. You have a Bay Street financier, maybe a hedge fund manager from Bay Street.
Lots of them.
On your couch, and you're taking him back to when he was a baby, or she, or into the womb. This high-powered Bay Street person.
Yes, I have lots of them, and they don't come to me because they want to make more money. They come because their work is very stressful, and once we clear the stressfulness, all of a sudden they feel relaxed. Even if they lose one day, they don't worry. They gain the other day. That they're just even. So in that way, they have a fantastic life, because you can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have a peace inside of you, you cannot have a great life, because back then the stress affects your family, your relationship with your family, with your children, with yourself, with your health, with your, you name it, everything is affected.
There's a quote in the book from one of my favorite writers, C.S. Lewis. We are what we believe we are. What does that mean?
Well, if I believe that I'm smart enough, I'm gonna behave and act like a smart person. If I believe I'm not smart enough, then I'm closing all the pathways of learning, all the pathways of accessing my own memories, and all of a sudden I limit my life. I work with school children. The first thing I help them to clear up when they have school problems, I help them to clear up the belief about school. If they believe school is very difficult, or school is very horrible, or school is very whatever, if we change that to learning is very easy, it's exciting. You can take this information and expand your life in the future. All of a sudden, they start learning. And of course, it takes a lot more than that, but this is the basis for it.
Right. You also talk about belief systems and how they're passed down, and how we don't even think about where they came from, but we just sort of follow them blindly. There's a wonderful story in the book about a woman, and she's teaching her daughter, I believe, to bake a cake. And she only puts half. Tell us the story.
Well, the story is this: somebody has this baking a cake, and they bake in half a cake, and then they say, "Why did you bake half a cake?" She says, "Because my mother did that." So they go back to the mother, and why did you bake half a cake? Well, my mother did that. So finally, they went back to a few generations, and the original person says, "I didn't have enough flour. I only had a flour for half a cake." So, but we take that, we carry from our generations, from the belief system that comes from our generation. It's incredible. As much as you can argue and say, I'm not going to be like my parent, I'm going to be the opposite. The next thing you know, subconsciously, you're doing the same thing, what you learn from your parents, unless you have gone and cleared the issues, the beliefs, the feelings, and you become powerful, and you become strong, and you become... so you can change that.
Yeah, our belief systems are very powerful, and again, we don't always understand where they came from. The book is called The Relationship Code: Heal Your Wounded Heart, and Debbie Papadakis is here. She's the founder of Hypno Healing Institute in Toronto. She's a registered psychotherapist, clinical hypnotherapist, relationship coach, and also featured in Oprah Winfrey's O magazine and O's Big Book of Happiness. And there are some exercises in the book as well for people that can't get to see you in person, or there's things that we can do on our own. Is there well, we'll take a time out here in a moment. Maybe you can run us through a very basic exercise that you think that would be easy for all of us to do on our way or on our own at home, and we'll also continue to talk about.
Take some maybe I can do a couple of minutes. I don't have to look at the book. I can do an exercise for somebody, for your viewers. Just think of somebody. Just close your. You don't
Okay, we're
have
going
to
to do it, Debbie. When we come back, we're going to take a time out. We'll take a time out. We'll come back and we'll go through an exercise. The relationship code, heal your wounded heart. Debbie Papadakis, and just a reminder, coming up in hour 2, Jim Perry will preview season 4 of his fabulous paranormal podcast, Euphomet. My name is Richard Serrett. This is The Conspiracy Show. Stay with us.
This is no place for the naive or the faint-hearted. The Conspiracy Show with Richard Serrett from Zoomer Radio.
Here's a resolution for 2021. Reduce stress and enhance your immune system. ESS 60 from C60 Evo. C60 is the carbon-60 molecule known to deliver more than 172 times the power of vitamin C. 172 times. ESS 60 is the purest form of C60, a known antiviral, antibacterial, and anti-inflammatory remedy that works. ESS 60 neutralizes free radicals from cell metabolization and external toxins to help minimize inflammation and maximize detoxification. Further, people report better sleep, more energy, and renewed mental clarity when they take our ESS 60 organic oil. To order your miracle molecule ESS 60, go to c60evo.com/Richard-Serrett. c60evo.com/Richard-Serrett. Buy now and save 10% by using the coupon code EVRS at checkout. Again, use the coupon code EVRS at checkout.
Where there's smoke, there's The Conspiracy Show with Richard Serrett from Zoomer Radio.
Debbie Papadakis is here, registered psychotherapist, clinical hypnotherapist, relationship coach, founder of the Hypno Healing Institute in Toronto. And her new book is The Relationship Code, Heal Your Wounded Heart, which contains a number of exercises. Let's say you can't get to see Debbie because of, obviously, the stay-at-home order and the lockdown and so forth. But there are things that we can do if you're armed with this book, things that we can do on our own to end the cycle of toxic relationships, improve our present-day relationships with our partners, with our siblings, with our parents. And so, Debbie, maybe you can walk us through one of these exercises.
Well, I can take one very general exercise, and I'm going to ask people just to follow instructions. You can keep your eyes open, closed, however you want, and just pay attention to what I'm just saying and follow the instructions if you do, please. So just take a deep breath and just think of somebody that you have an issue with, and really somebody that you think that person has given you some negativity or even if they never meant to, but they don't, you feel uncomfortable every time you look at that person. Perhaps you feel angry, you feel sad, you feel hurt. So just look at them and spend maybe a minute or so by looking at them. And I'm going to ask you telepathically, basically, you don't have to say it loud, to communicate with them, but not with their head. You're going to communicate with their heart and allow your heart to open up and see that person in a little different way. In other words, if you see them, if you have some upsetting time with them, maybe you need to express that and just start with tell them, I really want you to know I'm angry. I really want you to know I'm hurt. I really want you to know I don't feel good every time I think of you. I just express a little bit of that, but speak from your heart. And you'll find after 3 minutes you do that, you're not angry at them anymore. You might feel sad. And just do that for a couple of minutes. and start seeing them that they are becoming smaller people or becoming less angry, less tough, less, I don't know, just softer. Just imagine that. And imagine they're hearing you, those people. Imagination is very powerful, and I'll talk about it in a minute. So imagine they see you, they see your pain. Take a couple deep breaths and imagine they say, I don't know what they say, and they probably more likely would say, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize I did that to you.
So you should imagine them saying they're sorry?
They say, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize I was behaving that way. I was trying to help you. I was trying to be a good parent, a good friend, or whatever. Just imagine you're hearing, you're feeling their side of their story, and stay with heart to heart. And just maybe you need to express a little sadness and say, I feel sad. And just spend a few minutes back and forth talking to each other. And all of a sudden, you're going to find that you're not so angry with them anymore. And just feel their feelings. And just imagine they are really wonderful, wonderful people, and they tried their best. They didn't know what they were doing. And just look at them and see they look much softer. And maybe they honor you. They see how powerful you have become, how wonderful you are, how proud they are of you. What's happening in your heart when you see that? Take a couple deep breaths and see that from their perspective. They're looking very happy, very excited, very loving, and feel the love. And if you really look in their heart, you're going to see under the anger, the sadness, the hurt, the pain, there is love that is connected to you. You can feel that love. And just spend a minute or two and feel that love. And maybe you can send them some love from your heart too. Feel that pink energy goes back and forth. Take enough deep breaths. Allow yourself to relax. And feel and see their smile and feel your inner smile. You're becoming stronger. You're becoming nicer. You're becoming happier. And just send them love too. And this time, imagine some energies coming all over you. You're becoming so excited, so loving. And they come closer to you and you can hug them. And appreciating each other. How does that feel like?
All right,
Maybe
so
if you have a chat somewhere, they can say how they're feeling. Some of you, if you have followed the instruction, you might find that you're feeling softer about this relationship. And all of a sudden, all that anger goes away. This is not about the person you're working only. This anger you have there affecting your life in every area. So right now we're clearing that anger, but in reality, you're healing your life. The next step is to do some more exercises with money, to do some exercises with health, to do some exercises with other people. And you will find once you start cleaning all these relationships about everything, your life is going to change.
All right. What if the person that you're having an issue with is no longer alive? They're long gone. How do you deal with that?
Same thing. You can do the same thing, Richard, and imagine they're there and send them their blessings, your blessings, and you should see the impact that will have in your life when you, specifically if you're feeling uncomfortable because I wish I had said that to my mother or father, I wish I had said something. Well, you just imagine and you can express that to them. Even though they're not here, I'm telling you, the healing happens all the time. Very often I work with people who they have relationships that are so horrible. They broke up. They still suffering after this relationship is over. And I usually take them through some process, and all of a sudden they let that person go. Or if they have some uncomfortable feelings between partners, we can clear the energy and not give, all of a sudden they become closer. Or again, we work with all kinds of issues, not just relationship with people. How about having issues with your children? Sending love and connected with your children, all of a sudden they become affected too. Because everything, works like entanglement. Like when you have two particles become entangled with each other, all of a sudden, if you take action from one particle, the other is affected. The same thing is happening with this work. Right now, by just clearing the energy between you and this other person, all of a sudden, that other person feels better too.
Oh, that's interesting. That's very interesting. So when you're sitting there with your eyes, so when your eyes are closed and you're imagining this person that you're having an issue with, let's say they're living and there's someone that you're having problems with, and you're sending out this pink loving healing energy, even though you're trying to focus on sort of your perception of that person, you're also sort of remotely transforming them as well, even though they're not in the room, they're not even aware you're doing this.
Yes, there was a time, I have millions of examples, but one I'm thinking right now, I was in the United States. I was doing at a conference, and I had a 1-hour talk, and I did this exercise with a number of people. There were 40, 50 people, and the next morning I'm coming down the elevator, and this lady says, "Oh my God, I was in your workshop last night, and the person you asked us to visualize was my mother, and my mother and I have issues for 40 years, and we talk to each other, but not really in a positive way. And all of a sudden, she says, my mother called me this morning, and she said to me, you know, you and I thought we had some problem, but we never had any problem. And her mother didn't even know that she had done any.
That's remarkable. That's truly remarkable.
Because, my dear, you don't know how much I love you and all that. So it was very funny because that had happened 15 minutes before I was coming down the elevator, and she met me there, and she was so excited. And there is another case I might share with her. This is actually on my website, I think, this case. And this lady talks about, I did a conference with a telephone. There were 40, 50 people in this workshop. And I asked for a volunteer, and I didn't know that person. And she come up and she said, okay, my brother and I, since my parents died, we're not talking to each other for a couple of years. And I really want to heal that relationship. So we did that, clearing the relationship between her and her brother. And when I went to another conference at another place, she met me. She says, you know who I am? I'm the person you did the work with. And can I give you a testimonial? I said, what work? I can't remember because I do so many of those things. And she told me the story. And I said, if you want to give me a testimonial, I'll take it. And she basically, the next day, her brother called her up and said, how are you doing, my sister? And this is her own word somewhere on my website, in the hypno-healing.com. www.hypno-healing.com.
All right. So we're going to take a time out. We'll come back and we'll talk a little bit about hypnosis and regression and how that can also help us to transform our relationships. And one thing I'd like to talk about is why people seem to keep falling into the same types of toxic relationships. Why don't we, well, not for me, I mean, I'm in a wonderful relationship, but for some people, they keep choosing the same wrong person, relationship after relationship. We'll talk about that with Debbie Papadakis, the relationship code, Heal Your Wounded Heart, relationship code Hypnohypnotherapist.com. You can order the book right there. All right, back with more of The Conspiracy Show. Stay with us.
Loose lips sink ships, and sometimes corporations. Got something to say? Call Richard Serrett now at 416-360-0740 or toll free at 1-866-740-4740.
Hey there, I'm hard at work on another edition of Inner Sanctum, my free monthly newsletter. Inner Sanctum features my monthly brief, a column of my thoughts and opinions on what's happening in the world. It features a spotlight on a past guest, a look ahead to an upcoming episode of my weekly syndicated radio program, The Conspiracy Show. It features a look at this month in conspiracy and UFO history, and my Conspiracy Unlimited podcast episode pick of the month, and so much more. To get your free monthly newsletter, Inner Sanctum, delivered to your email inbox, just go to my website, strangeplanet.ca, strangeplanet.ca. Scroll down to the bottom of the page and click on Inner Sanctum and register. It's fast, easy, and again, absolutely free.
At the Society's headquarters at Blair Castle in Bristol.
Pollock's Carpet Market.
Big Brother is listening, and so are you, to The Conspiracy Show with Richard Serrett from Zoomer Radio. To speak with Richard, call 416-360-0740 or toll free 1-866-740-4740.
Welcome back. Debbie Papadakis from the Hypno Healing Institute is with us. She's a registered psychotherapist, clinical hypnotherapist, relationship coach. The new book is The Relationship Code, Heal Your Wounded Heart. And the Kindle version is available at Amazon.ca. And now you could also order the hard copy, the book, from relationshipcode.com, relationshipcode.com. And it's filled with exercises, things that you can do on your own to transform your relationships, not only with parents, siblings, partner, but also your relationship with money, for example. So let's talk about accessing the subconscious mind, because this is the super highway to solving a lot of these issues, right? If you can access the subconscious mind, you can get at a lot of these things that can take years and years of psychoanalysis to get at. But if we can't come to someone like yourself and undergo hypnosis, is there a way on our own we can access our own subconscious mind, Debbie?
Yes, you can access your subconscious mind through meditation, through relaxation, through self-hypnosis. But earlier you mentioned the book can find it also in the Amazon.ca and the Kindle.
Right.
Amazon.ca also, .com also.
Okay.
And if you want the hard copy, it's at the hypno-healing.com. So how do we access the subconscious without being hypnotized? First of all, let's understand what hypnotizing is. All of us, not most of us, we are hypnotized 3/4 of a day. So you think you're not hypnotized, but when you drive your car and you're thinking of your grocery list, you are going in that state that you're thinking of something else and you're doing something else. If a car cuts you off, you are more alert. You're going to press your brake. If you listening to a music and you're feeling relaxed, if you're watching TV and you're so much into that movie, that is hypnosis. Hypnosis has been betrayed by the whole world that it's a horrible thing and somebody's going to take your money or somebody's going to manipulate you. Has nothing to do with that. Hypnosis is a way to access the subconscious. And once you access that subconscious, then the information can come in. Again, even if you're hypnotized, I still have people, I tell them they have to respond. If I ask you a question, I want the first thing comes out of your mind. Not what you're supposed to tell me, but just tell me what comes up. And through hypnosis, you can lie. It's not a state that somebody's in control of you. It's a state that you enter in when you're trying to sleep or just before or after you dream. You still know what's happening, but you're so in this relaxed state. I mean, I've seen it. I have people say, I've never been so relaxed in my life. And I love that relaxed state. But they're more alert, more awake, 25% more alert than you are in a normal state. However, your focus is on the conversation I have with you. But if I say something wrong, if I say something you don't like it, you can discard it in the same minute. I hope I answer your question.
Right, sure. No, I
But
understand.
let me explain a little more. Think of it, you have 3 plates, one big plate, middle plate, and a little plate in the middle. The outside plate is the conscious mind, and that's where we have all the logic, the analysis, the thinking. And then the middle plate is the subconscious, which is the emotions, the feelings, the anger, the sadness, the hurt, the pain, and all that. And then the inside is the unconscious, that is the autonomic bodily function, we call it. But what basically say that you run your body like you blink your eyes, or your blood circulates right now, or you're digesting the food that you ate 3 hours ago. So your body, your autonomic part of your body does things that you have no control over. However, that is controlled by the emotions you feel. In other words, if you think of your mother and you feel upset, your body goes into tense. If you think of your father and you feel happy and loved, your body goes into happiness and expand. Your own energy shrinks or energy expands. So what we are doing with hypnosis, we go into this conscious, we bypassing the conscious, we enter the subconscious, where all information that we have no clue what is in there. This is why, because the body, your being, has some kind of mechanism that stores every smell you smell, every action you did, every thought you have from, if I was to talk about me, I would say for a long time, but even think of this life. Every thought, thing that you experience is from before, you can go and access it through hypnosis, and you can see it in a true perspective without magnify them. Because if we have a traumatic event as a childhood, we can go and see it from an adult, and you say, but they were trying to love me, and I took it in the wrong way. All of a sudden, you release that trauma.
Just like that.
Yes,
Never mind 30 years of psychoanalysis. In one session, you can...
Richard, let's go on. By just clearing that, you clear one little thing, then you have to go again to clear something else and something else. It's not just one thing that creates a problem. We have
Debbie, I've got to take a time out. We'll come back and chat some more. Heal Your Wounded Heart is what we're talking about. The relationship code. Debbie Papadakis from the Hypno Healing Institute here in Toronto. Hypno-healing.com. Hypno-healing.com is the website, and there are all sorts of workshops and things that you can sign up for as well, and learn to become a consulting hypnotist, for example. We'll talk about that. Back with more of The Conspiracy Show. Stay with us.
Peering into the shadows where the truth often hides. You're listening to The Conspiracy Show with Richard Serrett from Zoomer Radio.
I don't need to tell you how important building and sustaining a healthy immune system is these days. And just in time, my good friends at Get the Tea are offering a special package called the Immune Builder. You get 1 month's supply of Life Change Super Tea. That's 8 bags. 1 bottle of Bioastin. That's 75 capsules. Now, Bioastin, or astaxanthin, is known as one of nature's most powerful antioxidants and provides a wide range of impressive health benefits. The Immune Builder also includes 1 bottle of potent sea wild Alaskan sockeye omegas. That's 90 gel caps. And 1 copy of the book Natural Astaxanthin, Hawaii's Super Nutrient by Dr. William Sears. There's so much more than tea at getthetea.com. Get your Immune Builder right now. Not available in any store. Use the code UNLIMITED and all your purchases ship for free. The Immune Builder from getthetea.com.
social insurance numbers. If they make you wonder how private they are, here's two more numbers: 416-360-0740 or toll free at 1-866-740-4740.
All right, back with Debbie Papadakis, and again, the relationship code. Heal Your Wounded Heart, Amazon.ca, Amazon.com, Hypno-healing.com, and I think there's a separate website for the book called relationshipcode.com, relationshipcode.com. So, Debbie, I was going to ask you this before. Why do some people continuously seek out the wrong person, the same wrong person? Every relationship, that person is clearly wrong for them. They move on from that relationship, and then they go out and they find the exact same type of person.
If you really do some work on those people and find out what's going inside of them, remember we attract exactly what we have inside of us. If they don't feel good about themselves, they will be attracting people that they will treat them not good in some level. So once they feel strong and powerful, all of a sudden, nobody can bend them away. And so if you're feeling a victim constantly, and I'm not suggesting that there is no reason to become a victim, because quite often a lot of things are happening, and we need to be careful with this. And if anything like that is happening, please look for help. But once you feel strong yourself, you're attracting different people. We mentioned earlier at the show that you're attracted to exactly what you feel inside of you, and this is exactly what's happening.
All right. There's an exercise here on page 89. We don't have to go through it, but I just want to read it here. It's called the power of attitude. Instead of blaming yourself or your partner for the issues in your relationship, recall your childhood and examine the beliefs you brought into the relationship. Those beliefs have been created during your formative years while you were growing and watching your world unfold around you. And then there's an exercise to help bring some clarity as to what blockages or baggage you were carrying with you into your current relationship. So we don't have to go through the whole exercise, but just, give me some examples of how we can recall some of our childhood beliefs and how they affect our relationships.
Richard, if you imagine yourself going back into your childhood, just imagine yourself as a 5-year-old. How did you feel when you were 5-year-old? Some people say, I'm shy, I'm scared, I'm afraid. I mean, you have any fears? Yes, I'm afraid of my dad. Meantime, your father is trying to basically discipline you to be a good boy or girl. However, if you have that fear there, that fear is going to affect you. But if you go back and reverse that, just imagine your dad and change that situation. Just the exercise we did a few minutes ago, that will resolve that most of it, not all of it, but it's going to resolve most of the issue. And once you clear those issues, all of a sudden you're going to become so relaxed and okay with your father. And then you have to do more work with other situations. But you have to understand the subconscious is so brilliant, can help. Think of the domino effect. You go and clear something from you when you're 2 years old. All of a sudden, a lot of things are clearing up in this life without you doing too much work about it.
Right.
So
right.
Once you clear the root cause of this issue, all of a sudden, the issues becoming non-issue sometimes. Sometimes might have other things around it, but as I said before, I love to use hypnosis because you calm your mind. All of a sudden, you are in the front of the problem instead of working for that particular problem forever.
And how often does it happen where the root of a person's problem with a relationship is not from their childhood? It even goes prior to, into a past life, perhaps. How often does that happen?
Very often. And when we're clearing the childhood stuff, we're clearing sometimes 80, 90%. And if we go to past life, we clear most stuff. But it's not always past life. It's not always. in past lives, we talk about contracts we have, and we clear those. Actually, I'm teaching a class right now, and this week we had all kinds of discussion about that. People went back into past life where they had some issues with their partner, and all of a sudden in this life, they are in and out this relationship forever, and they love each other, yet they hate each other, and they love each other, and in the 25 years, they're still back and forth. So once you go to the past life and you clear up, that is even more deeper root. You clear that, all of a sudden this relationship comes back in its balance. So you leave yourself or you come together, but it's one or the other versus going back and forth.
And that's because we tend to travel with the same group of people from one lifetime to another, correct?
Well, sometimes we do, and that's a bigger discussion because I teach some other classes in Life Between Life, which we go into the life between life, where we make decisions who to come with and all this other stuff. So, for many years I didn't believe in all those things, and I'm not sure today if 100% I do believe that, but I do know 100% that is wonderful therapeutic techniques to heal what's happening in our lives today. Because quite often I can work with somebody for a long time and can figure out all the issues to clear up. You take them back, and all of a sudden they clear up issues that I spent a long time. I mean, there is Brian Weiss, Dr. Brian Weiss, who wrote a book, and you can read that book. I mean, it's 25, 30 years old book. It's classic about past lives and how the contractors make and all this other stuff. That, anyways, it's an incredible book.
Right. In other words, it doesn't matter if you believe in reincarnation. Just undergoing a past life regression session, maybe your mind is just making up, like a movie, making it up. But just experiencing it has healing attributes, I guess.
Thank you. You said it very nicely, Richard. And that you don't have to believe in those things. And the reason I'm telling you, sometimes, is it true or not true? I don't know. The reason is, if for example, I quite often tell that people, 9/11, we all witness on television the towers coming down with airplanes in New York, right?
Right.
So, and we witnessed it millions of times. I don't know how many times we saw it on TV. And if we felt that fear and the panic at the time watching it over and over and over and over, even though I wasn't in New York, I was not near there, if I felt it through my heart, and if I have fears today, and if somebody requests me, I can go back to that, and I feel as though I'm there, even though I wasn't there. But so what you're going back is to that fear you have, and I don't know if that fear you developed was through reading a book, through seeing a movie, through maybe it is true, maybe it's part of it is true, I don't know. However, my goal is for me to help people to overcome fears, apprehension, to get rid of negativity, to get rid of punishing themselves, to love themselves, because I feel the best relationship you need to have with no matter what is yourself. Once you have a good relationship with yourself, you standing up for yourself and you creating the life you want to. Yes, obstacles will come to you like everybody else, but you will treat yourself with respect, with power, and then you're treating others the same way too.
All right, very quickly, we've got about a minute. Just tell us about some of the workshops and courses. People can sign up and through online, take these online courses because we're still in lockdown at the Hypno Healing Institute. Yes,
we turn all our classes to online classes, and actually I don't even know if I'm going to go back to the live, and it's going to be live, but it's going to be on what is that, Zoom?
Zoom, yeah.
Hypnosis certification class. Right now we have 2 more weeks. We finish in this class. In May we start a new one. It's only every Wednesday for 4 hours, and then we teach in another class, the past life, and we teach in other classes too. So please go to the www.hypno-healing.com and look at our classes specific to the hypnosis. If you would like to find your own inner self, if you want to help others, if you want to create a new profession, please. And if you're interested, of course. If you're not interested, that's fine. But it's a wonderful course, and I've been this time is going to be the 90th time, 90th time I'm teaching this class.
And this is to become a consulting hypnotist?
Yes, to become a consulting hypnotist. It's sponsored by the National Guild of Hypnotists, and you're starting a journey that is incredible. Every student, after those thousands of students I have, that all some of them they're creating a new career, some of them they're adding it to their own old career, some of them they just take it out of curiosity to heal themselves, some of them they all have different reasons, but it's an incredible transformational class.
All right, we've got to run hypno-healing.com, hypno-healing.com, the relationship code, Heal Your Wounded Heart, amazon.ca, amazon.com, and also relationshipcode.com. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you to everybody, to the listeners all over the world. God bless you all, and I don't know what else to tell you. Thank you, Richard. You're wonderful.
Bye-bye. Bye for now. When we come back, Jim Perry, the host of Euphomet, will preview Season 4 of this fabulous paranormal podcast. Stay with us.
PIN numbers, passcodes. Live from Toronto, Canada, Earth, The Conspiracy Show, Richard Sarrett on Zoomer Radio.
Hey, thanks for inviting me into your home. Long-haul truck, RV, camper, taxi, your parents' well-appointed basement with a simulated wood paneling, electric fireplace, and the painting of dogs playing poker, your loft, that greasy spoon just off the interstate, and your cabin in the woods. All right, get ready for Season 4 of Euphomet, the critically acclaimed paranormal documentary podcast series. Jim Perry is the host and creative producer, and he's standing by from his home in the Pacific the Pacific Northwest. He's brought some clips from the upcoming season, and we're happy to have Jim. He's, again, a podcast host, creative producer, entrepreneur, based in the Pacific Northwest. His fascination for the anomalous events that happen in people's lives inspired the creation of Euphomet, the critically acclaimed audio documentary podcast about the strange and our relationship to it. Everyone has a weird story, and Jim is devoted to uncovering the intimate, human, eccentric version of these supernatural tales. And always a great pleasure to have Jim Perry on the program. Hey, Jim, how are you?
Hey, Richard. It's so good to talk to you. I always enjoy speaking with you, no matter on what platform it may be. You always unlock a certain inquisitive nature of my own process and myself. So I appreciate that. And it's a pleasure to talk with you here tonight.
So I've had you on the podcast a bunch of times on Coast to Coast. I don't know that we've had you on the weekly radio show here. So for those not familiar with this podcast, Euphomet, just tell them, what it's all about. This is not, I do a podcast and it's just sort of one-on-one interviews, but this is a documentary style. Tell us about it.
Yeah, Euphomet is a show about the unknown and our relationship to it. And when I say that, it's featured stories of individuals who have had paranormal experiences that have really transformed their lives. We're looking at individuals that maybe they just saw a ghost once, but then that sighting eventually led to something that fundamentally changed how they looked at themselves and their place in reality. And, before COVID, I would go out and travel and commune with these folks, sometimes stay on their couches or go on little adventures and basically embed myself with them to get their truest sense of their story and find the person behind the sighting or the experience.
All right. So now that are things opening up in the Northwest? Are you able to, because you're a boots on the ground kind of guy, you go, again, in a documentary series, you can't do that sitting behind a microphone and a desk. So are things opening up? Are you able to?
They are a little bit. I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting so I can kind of travel comfortably. But you know, what's been really interesting is doing this fourth season from home. The amount of intimacy that I've been able to explore with my guests through just the computer, through using software, has really surprised me. And one of the things that's been interesting is that this season is primarily based on listeners who maybe in another world wouldn't quite feel comfortable maybe sharing as much space with me as maybe someone who's a professional, you know, author or, you know, has kind of run the circuit in the paranormal. These folks have come to me very delicately with their stories through email or social media. And I've had I've had the opportunity to chat with these folks 3 or 4, sometimes 5 different sessions to uncover what their stories really mean to them and put them all down to tape. But, you know, the first thing that I was really scared about doing it during this time and doing it remotely was losing that sense of urgency and the connection with whoever I'm trying to help tell their story. The converse happened, and it became even more intimate than before. So thankfully that's the case, but I cannot wait to get back out on the road at the same token.
All right, so season 4. Oh, but before we get, we're going to play some clips, and you're going to introduce us to some of these characters that are documented in your podcast series. But first, before that, we've talked about this, but again, it's I'm always fascinated about what it is about the Pacific Northwest, and you sort of jokingly once referred to it as the Pacific North Weird, which I think is fabulous. But what is it about the Pacific Northwest why is it so ripe with these types of anomalous paranormal happenings?
Well, it's anyone's guess at this point in time, but I feel like there's something to be said for its geography. The conditions here are suitable for something that we call liminal space, and we'll hear about some of that in the clips that we'll present here tonight. But you know, you're essentially looking at a place where you're in between charged locations. You're stuck in between large bodies of water and volcanic mountains. A lot of people would suggest that creates different vortexes. It creates like a sort of a siphon where energy can flow in and out at a rapid pace. If those things are all true, then this would be the perfect location for that. But you know, we're looking at, you know, the most historic tales of Sasquatch, the birth of the flying saucer in 1947 with Kenneth Arnold, the mysteries of, you know, sort of various cryptids that inhabit the different island spaces here, like Shrimpy, and from these clips here tonight that, you know, a few of them based here in the Pacific Northwest, all sorts of strange stuff happening on shore and then off on the island chains as well.
All right, so introduce us to Libby. We're going to play a clip from this episode. Libby, who is she? And just sort of set it up for us. This is The Haunting.
Yeah, so Libby was a listener of Euphomet, and she wrote me to tell me and share her story. And it was very, very eloquently put together in these emails, and I could tell that she was a writer. That's what I guessed, and I was correct. She's a writer. You know, she would describe herself as a skeptic when she and her husband moved to a remote island in the San Juans in Washington State. And that's when their skepticism was immediately tested, Richard. She describes living there as if being in a different world. It's dark, it's quiet, it's isolated, and this is where strange things like to happen, of course.
All right, so this is a fairly lengthy clip, but, you know, sit back and relax and enjoy this clip from season 4 of the paranormal documentary podcast Euphomet. I'm going to try something a little different this week. I'm actually playing these clips off my phone, so it's a bit of a fireman's bucket brigade here, but here we go. This is Libby and The Haunting.
We decided to rent before we bought a place just to make sure we really liked it, since it is so isolated and so far away from everyone else we know. So we found a little rental house and moved in, and right away we started noticing a lot of things happening there that we weren't used to happening in our homes, but being as skeptical as we are, we found ways to sort of write it off as just coincidences or just normal happenings. So one of the things that would happen frequently is we had this old armoire in the bedroom, and the door on it would just open and close at weird moments. So, you know, we'd be sitting in bed, watching something on our laptops or whatever, and just out of nowhere, without anybody walking past it or shifting the floorboards or anything, the door would just swing open on this armoire. And we would be like, oh, that's weird. And we'd get up and shut it. And it was nothing that, obviously, it's not like a dramatic thing, you know, an old armoire door swinging open. I mean, it's a pretty commonplace happening. So we didn't really think much of it, except that it just happened a lot. Like, it was very frequent. It was pretty much always when we were in the room. It got to the point where we wedged this little sock in the door of the armoire to keep it from swinging open. And it still would open sometimes, even with the sock in it. You know, we wrote it off as like, well, the floors must be uneven, even though there were no other signs of the floors being uneven in the house. We were not willing to entertain that it could have been anything other than just a mundane experience. After we stopped acknowledging that the armoire door was doing its own thing, that's when things started to escalate beyond just that activity. So the way the bedroom was set up, the only place we could put the bed was up against this window that looked out onto the backyard. It was just like the bed pushed up against the wall and the window right above the bed where a headboard normally would be. We began to notice this handprint on the window right above the bed. It was a large handprint, like an adult-size handprint, washed the windows inside and out, and you know, the next day it would be back. We never really talked about it much. Like, eventually we washed the windows so many times and immediately the handprint would reappear in exactly the same place, at exactly the same angle. I mean, it was always the same handprint over and over again. This was never anything we discussed. We just kind of had this silent agreement to never talk about the handprint. It just kept coming. We kept washing it away, and eventually we stopped trying to make the handprint leave our lives. It was just a permanent fixture of the bedroom. It did feel like something was trying to get our attention. You know, something was trying to make us notice that it was there. And maybe something was kind of insisting, I am here. You know, it was, we were so willing to write off the armoire door opening in front of us all the time as, oh, it's just, you know, houses, the floors are crazy. That's something totally mundane. It almost feels like the handprint was kind of an escalation, like a more insistent energy, just asserting itself and saying, I'm real, you know, I'm really here. I'm not a figment of your imagination. You start going, okay, this is not anything I've experienced in reality before, and it's awfully hard to explain this with purely skeptical, rational means. I would say about 3 or 4 months after we had moved into the rental house, and probably about 2 months after we had just accepted the handprint as a fact of life that wasn't going away, we had been, you know, up at night, sitting around the dining room table, each of us working on our 2 respective laptops. And, you know, bedtime rolled around, we fed the cats, we locked the doors, we got into bed. When we got up the next morning, the table was empty and both of our laptops were gone. Of course, at first we thought, oh gosh, well, we must have put them somewhere weird and we didn't realize it. So we looked for them and they didn't turn up. And then we tore the house apart looking for them and they were nowhere. I mean, we could not find these laptops anywhere. And, you know, I work from home. Like, that's how I make my living, is on my laptop. So I was like, oh my God, what happened? We thought, well, you know, this dining room table is right next to this slider door. And maybe somebody was prowling around our house, looked through the slider, and somehow got in and stole the laptops. And we went and checked, and the slider was still locked, but, you know, always looking for those skeptical excuses for weird things. We thought, well, maybe somebody jimmied it open, and when they closed it again, it popped the lock back into place. I don't know. So we couldn't think of anything to do except to file a police report. So the sheriff came out and he looked around and said he found no evidence at all of any kind of forced entry, but the laptops were undeniably gone. And so he took the report and was like, okay, whatever, crazy people, and he left. gosh, I don't remember how long after that it was. Maybe a couple of days. We had like ordered new laptops and stuff. We were just ready to move on with our lives. I went into one of the spare bedrooms and I was looking for some bedding. And I cut open a box that was still taped shut from our move and pulled all the bedding out. And on the bottom of the box, underneath pillows and blankets, were 2 laptops. Inside a sealed box. And we had just used those damn laptops like 2 days before. It was chilling. I was terrified for a minute. I didn't understand how this could possibly have happened. I took them out and I walked up to Paul with them in my hands and he said, "Where did you find those?" And I said, "Inside that box that was taped up in the spare room." And we just stared at each other for the longest time. And then he said, "Let's just not talk about this ever again." And we didn't. What else are you gonna do? I still to this day have no explanation for how that could have happened, but if that didn't destroy my absolute skepticism, I don't know what else could have possibly done it. I mean, how do you explain that? You can't. And once we found a place and put an offer in it, we were kind of friendly with our next door neighbors there, and we mentioned to them, "Oh yeah, it's been so great living near you guys, but we're actually going to be moving soon because we're buying a house." And she said, "Oh, the house itself, it's kind of weird." And I was like, "Yeah, it's a little weird. It's slightly weird." And I was kind of surprised that she knew anything about the weirdness of the house. And she said, "Well, did you hear about what happened in this house before you moved in? Did the owner tell you?" And I said, "No, what happened?" And she said, the lady who owned it, her husband passed away in the bedroom, in the master bedroom. So that was where the handprint was appearing and where the armoire door was opening all the time. And who knows, maybe he also lifted our laptops and repacked them for us in a box. But I was like, at that point, you're not going to be scared by somebody saying, like, maybe there's a spirit haunting that house you lived in, because, like, I've already been living there for months, I'm used to it at that point. So I was like, oh, okay, well, that explains a thing or two.
There you go. Wow. There's an old expression in broadcasting, Jim, that is, you bring good tape. People who live in the digital world may not understand, the old days of analog and tape, but that's what we used to say. You bring good tape. You hit the quinella with this. I mean, what a load of paranormal activity going on in this place. A fabulous story.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. I mean, I think at the end of the day, this story is really about definitely the paranormal aspects and what is going on that island and what is going on with that individual, but also skepticism itself, and that how a lack thereof can shape our relationship to our sense of self, our sense of place, family, but how when we open ourselves up to new ideas, we may find they're old ideas. And without that, make us feel more connected to things like our ancestors and the wonder and the possibility of what else could be out there.
And she's so believable and authentic. This Libby is her name, but she just seems to be kind of going with the flow. Like nothing seems to throw her.
Yeah, I think when you live in a situation like Libby, and she's a writer, so she's inherently creative, you kind of have to use those influences in your life to create a narrative for yourself, perhaps. And so what Libby did was, she didn't automatically, sort of feel that way. It was shocking. It was jarring to her and her husband as these events started to transpire. But where she found solace is when she actually went back and started researching, hey, is there a correlation between being on an island, for example, and an elevated level of paranormal activity? What she found within her own lineage is, pagan beliefs that were very similar to what we would call liminality or liminal spaces, that attributed elevated paranormal activity in islands. The islands being essentially world between worlds, a place where the veil is thinner, perhaps, and these things have sort of a shorter distance to interact with you. So, as soon as she found a connection to both her ancestors in the past and what they believed about, and, grew accustomed to that, kind of leaned into the weirdness a little bit, I think it actually kind of felt like she wasn't alone as much anymore. And that maybe this was just kind of a new, exciting way to live life.
Ordinarily, you would have been sort of on location, correct? I mean,
were you kind of sorry that you couldn't be there and maybe witness some of this stuff for yourself?
I really was, especially in terms of her specific locations. Now, I have spent a lot of time on that island and in the San Juan Islands in general. And in fact, that archipelago, things like Vashon and Maury Island could be considered the tail end of that, as a Justin Tacoma there at the end of the Puget Sound. So, or in the midsection of the Puget Sound there. So, I have spent time boots on the ground there, but just as a tourist, right? Just as a curious onlooker. But with that, I find myself engaged in those situations just as much as I can't turn it off, Richard. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
you land at these places and you want to relax, and then you start looking around to see if there is a legend of a ghost or a UFO sighting or whatever else.
So we're going to take a time out here shortly. When we come back, we've got another clip from this same episode. It's called The Intruder. What is the actual episode called? So when people download Euphomet, we can find this specific episode.
Yeah, this specific episode is actually the newest release. It was just released on Thursday. It's called The Island, and you'll find that at the top of the feed, the Euphomet feed, which can be found wherever you listen to podcasts.
All right, the Euphomet, we'll find out from Jim Perry what that means. Euphomet, E-U-P-H-O-M-E-T, Euphomet, interesting word, and we'll find out its meaning. Jim Perry returns on the other side as we continue to preview Season 4 of this terrific podcast. Stay with us.
Fasten your seatbelt and put your tray in the upright position. You're about to leave everything you know behind on The Conspiracy Show with Richard Serrett from Zoomer Radio.
Here's a resolution for 2021. Reduce stress and enhance your immune system. ESS60 from C60 Evo. C60 is the carbon-60 molecule known to deliver more than 172 times the power of vitamin C. 172 times. ESS60 is the purest form of C60, a known antiviral, antibacterial, and anti-inflammatory remedy that works. ESS60 neutralizes free radicals from cell metabolization and external toxins to help minimize inflammation and maximize detoxification. Further, people report better sleep, more energy, and renewed mental clarity when they take our ESS60 organic oil. To order your miracle molecule ESS60, go to c60evo.com/Richard-Serrett. c60evo.com/Richard-Serrett. Buy now and save 10% by using the coupon code EVRS at checkout. Again, use the coupon code EVRS at checkout.
This is The Conspiracy Show with Richard Serrett on Zoomer Radio.
And we're back with Jim Perry, the creative producer and host of the podcast Euphomet. What does that mean, Jim? Euphomet, what is it?
Well, the story has changed a couple times, and because I thought it was originally influenced by just liking euphonot, that sort of classic vintage term, and changing it to something that's kind of ownable and brandable. But as I kind of considered it, I've had this fascination with the idea of Pan, the trickster, right? The trickster element, the playful devil. So really, Euphomet is kind of a euphemism for that, a euphemistic Baphomet, if you will. So that playful devil kind of encapsulates the show's spirit of finding that trickster element within the paranormal that seemingly occurs and is a very important part of the phenomenon at large.
And the logo for the podcast, the thumbnail, is a moth. What's the connection there?
Yeah, moths are attracted to light, but they're also associated with death quite a bit. So, I like that. I like the idea of within the darkness, we are flying towards the light. We are trying to find some sort of truth, whatever that is. It feels hopeful to me to be able to think in those terms while also paying attention to what that darkness really is and the danger and the mystery that holds. So that's really where the moth came from.
All right, we're previewing season 4 of the Euphomet and the Euphomet podcast, and this is also from that episode we played earlier. This is The Island, and Libby here again. This is this clip we're calling The Intruder. Just set this up for us quickly, Jim.
Yeah, in this next clip, Libby settles into this new weird life, and the strange nature of this place, Richard, really shows itself to her.
All right, here we go.
Philosophers, poets, and writers like to talk about that moment when staring into the abyss, when it turns to stare back at you.
I live outside of town by a few miles, but my friend who lives in that little tiny town I mentioned earlier, she was on vacation for the holidays, and she asked me to take care of her cat while she was gone. So I said, sure, no problem. I would drive into town a couple times a day, feed her cat in that single neighborhood that's lit at night. It is just pitch black everywhere. So I came out of her house, and I went down into the driveway, got into my car, backed out of her driveway, just like I did every night that I took care of her cat. And I drove to the end of the street she lived on, which ended at a little stop sign. And then as you sat at the stop sign, across that road, there was a short little cul-de-sac with a few other houses on it. So the headlights of my car were shining down into this cul-de-sac from the stop sign. What I saw at the end of the cul-de-sac, where it rounded out, was this large, broad-shouldered humanoid figure crouched down. And I just remember grabbing hold of my steering wheel and looking at this dog-headed thing that was crouching down against the ground and staring back at me. And I remember saying out loud, "Is that a werewolf?" If you imagine kind of crouching on your heels with your knees sort of up, and it had its hands down between its feet. Its body was completely black. It had a narrow skull, a narrow, long muzzle, and 2 big pointy ears that stood straight up. So it kind of, if you can imagine the Egyptian god Anubis with the jackal head, that's what it was. It had 2 bright green, luminous eyes that were staring back at me. If you think of the tapetum lucidum in most animals' eyes that reflects light at night, that was the same kind of reflection I was getting. That was where the light was coming from. It was like a retinal reflection from a dog. It was moving a little bit, and that was what caught my eye. I think was the motion of it. And I stared at this thing, and I realized its body was heaving as it was drawing really heavy breaths. I just cranked the wheel and drove off as fast as I could because I didn't know what else to do. And I was so shocked, I didn't even grab my phone to try to take a video or a picture of it. I didn't even think of that in the moment. All I could do was stare at this thing and just think, what the hell is that? I've never seen anything like it before. So I drove off as fast as I could, and at first, of course, as I was going through town, I was just I was shaking, I was freaking out. I kept looking in my rearview mirror thinking this thing was going to come chasing after me, right? And then I got about halfway to town, and my thoughts slowed down a little bit, and I started to kind of think about its posture and its hard breath. Before I was riding full time, I was working as a zookeeper, and I realized, I guess from my experience with working with so many other kinds of animals in the past, that its body language was saying that it was scared, it was terrified. And all I could think was, it had to have been terrified of me. And then I sort of realized what it must have looked like to that creature, this, metallic vehicle suddenly emerging into its reality with lights emanating from it. And I thought, oh my God, I was a UFO. My Hyundai was a UFO. Like, I scared this poor being, this entity, whatever it was, like somehow I popped into its reality or it popped into mine or whatever. And I was the scary thing, I was the terrifying object that shattered its reality. And then I was laughing. By the time I got back home, I was like, what the hell, man? Some beast out there in some dimension thinks that my Hyundai is a UFO.
There you go. Well, a happy ending anyway. My word. So the Dog Man.
Yeah.
Are the islands, the Puget Sound Islands, noted for Dogman sightings, or was this a new one on you?
This was a new one for me. I mean, of course, Sasquatch is known as something that not just the islands, but of course the Olympic Peninsula and the Cascade Mountain Range, the state is lousy with them. But the Dogman or the werewolf, listen, we're getting into Twilight territory, I mean, with Wolfmen in that area. But listen, I think it's if Sasquatch, if that level of cryptid beast is there and this elevated liminality is occurring, then of course the Dogman is there. I mean, if we look at other places around the world, which features, sort of a panoply of different paranormal activity, the Dogman is ever present. You look at places like Skinwalker Ranch, for example, as one example. So, is it possible? Sure. The thing that really surprised me about this story was just that idea that she poses there, that we could be that other thing, Richard. Like, we're having experiences, but, maybe in these liminal states, it's possible that we are the ghost, we are the UFO, we are the cryptid to whatever else we're engaging with. That's kind of mind-boggling to me.
It is. That's a difficult one to wrap one's head around. That I guess our reality is bleeding into theirs. So basically, we're talking about interdimensionals. These are not some heretofore, undiscovered mammal like the mountain gorilla from the 1920s or whenever it was they were discovered. These are interdimensionals. Is that how you see it? That's what these things are? They're not necessarily even physical?
Listen, I usually have a cop-out answer for this because I'm not really I don't claim to be a researcher or investigator. I just claim to be a storyteller, an amateur anthropologist at best. But, the stories that I have learned from, especially in this area, point towards some sort of interdimensionality, at least in terms of those that are experiencing it firsthand. Me, myself, there is a sort of a living quality to these things that express themselves in a very close but distant way. Now, I know that seems kind of complex, but for example, in 1947, when Kenneth Arnold saw his 9 flying craft over the Cascade Mountains, he looked at those things and originally thought like those are those are a device. Those are rockets, right? Those are something from Germany or from Russia. Maybe we made those. But as he aged and as he got older, he started to develop a more sort of nuanced reaction to what those things could be. And he started to believe that they were potentially interdimensional. And it's more based on sort of a feeling than even, hard evidence. But, it would suggest that those feelings that we have and the relationship that we have with these, cryptids or UFOs or experiences in general mean just as much than any sort of tactical evidence that we may ever find.
All right. This is from The Island, an episode, season 4 of Euphomet, the paranormal documentary style podcast. And Jim Perry is with us, and you can find Euphomet wherever you find your favorite podcasts. We'll be taking a break here shortly. When we come back, we're going to play, it's a short segment, but we'll have time to squeeze in one. It's Hugo, and this is The Haunted House. Just as we head into the break here, just tell us very quickly who Hugo is, Jim.
Yeah, Hugo is a professional painter from Arizona. He dealt with a certain psychic sensitivity while growing up, and it started really to take over his life as a little kid, a time really where he didn't know what was happening to him and definitely not any way to control it.
All right, we'll get to Hugo when we come back, play a clip, and continue to discuss Euphomet and all things paranormal, high strangeness from the Pacific Northwest, right here on The Conspiracy Show. My name is Richard Serra. Stay with us.
The owners of the system are asleep. Now we can play The Conspiracy Show with Richard Serra from Zoomer Radio.
Hey there, I'm hard at work on another edition of Inner Sanctum, my free monthly newsletter. Inner Sanctum features my monthly brief, a column of my thoughts and opinions on what's happening in the world. It features a spotlight on a past guest, a look ahead to an upcoming episode of my weekly syndicated radio program, The Conspiracy Show. It features a look at this month in conspiracy and UFO history, and my Conspiracy Unlimited podcast episode pick of the month, and so much more. To get your free monthly newsletter, Inner Sanctum, delivered to your email inbox, just go to my website, strangeplanet.ca, strangeplanet.ca. Scroll down to the bottom of the page and click on Inner Sanctum and register. It's fast, easy, and again, absolutely free.
Take a look around. What do you really see? This is where you can tell all about it. The Conspiracy Show with Richard Serra on Zoomer Radio.
All right, Jim Perry, Euphomet is the podcast, season 4, and we're kind of previewing that for you. And so this is Hugo, who has some psychic ability. He's down in Arizona. And so what are we going to hear in this clip, The Haunted House, Jim?
You know, we're going to really hear a snapshot of how kind of tough his childhood was, how strange these empathic behaviors or these empathic experiences were, you know, affecting his life when he was a kid. And he didn't really have much context on how to control these feelings or this ability that he had. And we're going to have just a little snapshot of what that was like for him.
All right. Some scary stuff here, folks. Have a listen.
I always knew like things were different around me. When we started house shopping, that's when it started coming out the most. Still remember one of the first houses that we looked at. Pulled up, chain link fence in the front, nice, beautiful green grass. And I was in the back seat with my mom and my sister. And I look at the house, and the first thing I see is on one of the walls, sitting in the chair, so she would be facing the floor, is an old lady. So she was not on the ground. Her chair was on the wall when I saw her, kind of looking over and smiling. But it was the ugliest, most putrid smile ever. And that's the image that I got. It's not like I'm seeing you. It's almost like a quick, like a boom, like a flash. Like, bam, there's an image. And I was a little kid, you know? And as soon as that image hit me, I grabbed onto my mom. And my mom, she was always very in tune with me. She said, you know, what's the matter? And I said, hey, look, there's no lady in this house. I just saw her. She's in there. She's not nice. She's in that back room right there. I'm like, Mom, I don't want to go in this house. And I started freaking out, started panicking. I thank God for my mom, because she said to my dad, she's like, hey, we're not going in this house. He's like, well, why not? She's like, no, you know what? I don't really like it. And she made something up. And she told him later, you know, what I had told her. And my father was very, oh man, he's old school and a drinker back then, and unfortunately he was physically abusive towards me back then. And you know, he went the typical, he needs to stop being such a and blah blah blah. And right away I was like, this is strange, this isn't right. Like, why is this happening to me? We fast forward, my dad's talking to my mom, and he's got this look like, disbelief. He's just like, I what? Are you sure? Are you positive? And being the nosy little kid that I was, you know, I walk in and he walks away from my mom, and I'm like, what's wrong with Dad? You know, what's his deal? And Vera, the lady that was the realtor, told him that yes, there was an elderly woman that lived there, and she passed away in the house. She passed away in one of the back rooms. And I right away was like, I knew it, you know. I was like, oh, I told you, you know. I won. I had a victory, you know. It wasn't a good one, but I was just like, oh, yes. You know, I hope he's terrified. And he looked terrified, this man. He just looked like, I can't believe this shit, you know. Because my dad is very like, if I don't see it, I'm not going to believe it. You know, if it doesn't happen, if I didn't see it, it didn't happen. And I'm like, that's an awful way to think.
There you go, Hugo, and his childhood remembrances. My God, what a horrible ability to have, to be able to see ghosts that way. He must have been tortured.
He really was. You know, in addition to that, as he mentioned, his dad was really abusive. You know, he you know, kicked him over in his high chair one time. He, you know, kicked him while he was down on the ground. You know, he was a really abusive man. You know, Hugo says he's changed for the better, you know, as he's gotten older and stopped drinking, and they have a different relationship now. But, you know, I think those sort of childhood traumas, you know, kind of like harkening back to your first hour, Richard, you know, they definitely make an impact. And for those that are empaths, you know, they can kind of color what kind of information that you're feeding into, right? I think if you're in a negative space, seemingly, those interactions that you get from the other side seemingly are more negative than not. And, you know, that's really telling, I think.
Right. So do you think, based on your experience and years of covering this beat, that being in a type of relationship like that invites entities maybe into your space?
I mean, I think if there's if you're preconditioned to have some sort of inherent ability, yeah, it really does. Like, everything suggests that based off of the life you're living at the time and the influences thereof, whether positive or traumatic, that they influence what your relationship is with the other side. So I think, you know, some evidence suggests that it's based off of manifestation as well, you know, that we are a participant in whatever the strange is, that we are co-creating whatever that relationship is. And if we're bringing negativity to it, and that's it, you know, I think we're met with that. And what's fascinating about Hugo's story is that later on in the story, we see the converse of that starting to occur. Once he gets away from the traumatic elements and he starts introducing more positive elements into his life, his interactions begin to fundamentally change with the other side.
All right, and we'll come back with another clip from Hugo. We're calling this one the Uber, an interesting interaction in which his intuitive empath abilities come to the fore. Jim Perry with us from Euphomet, the fabulous paranormal podcast, now in season 4. Back with more in a moment. Stay with us.
In a democracy, we elect officials so we can sleep at night. So why are you up? 416-360-0740 or toll free at 1-866-740-4740.
I don't need to tell you how important building and sustaining a healthy immune system is these days. And just in time, my good friends at Get the Tea are offering a special package called the Immune Builder. You get 1 month's supply of Life Change Super Tea. That's 8 bags. 1 bottle of BioAstin. That's 75 capsules. Now, BioAstin, or astaxanthin, is known as one of nature's most powerful antioxidants and provides a wide range of impressive health benefits. The Immune Builder also includes 1 bottle of Potent C Wild Alaskan Sockeye Omegas. That's 90 gel caps. And 1 copy of the book Natural Astaxanthin, Hawaii's Super Nutrient by Dr. William Sears. There's so much more than tea at getthetea.com. Get your immune builder right now. Not available in any store. Use the code UNLIMITED and all your purchases ship for free. The Immune Builder from getthetea.com.
You're listening to The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett from Zoomer Radio.
All right, Jim, we're going to hear from Hugo again from season 4. This time he's in an Uber. Just set it up for us. What's happening here?
Yeah, so this is Hugo from a few years ago, right? So he's an adult. He's been able to change the circumstances of life. He's found positive inspiration, and he's now a painter. And this is just kind of a snapshot of how his abilities started to shift and change, and that these frightening apparitions that used to visit him kind of become spirits of a friendlier variety. And that's when things can get a little bit awkward.
All right, here we go.
I had a Uber pick me up from work, and on the way home, she was just talking. And she's like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And I'm in the back seat trying to listen to her. But I keep seeing this guy in like a military uniform come into my thoughts. And he's very like, can you say something? Can you speak up? And I'm like, oh God, no, I don't want to do this. And finally, we make a turn and we're like maybe 2 streets away from my house. And I put my hand on her shoulder, and she gets quiet, because that's already weird. Like, your passenger just put his hand on your shoulder. What the hell? And I said, is your dad dead? And I thought that she was going to be like, get the fuck out of my car. And she slows down, she pulls over, and she goes, we're not doing this while I'm driving. I'm pulling over. We can do this when I pull over. And I'm like, oh, she's gonna fight me. And she pulls over and she goes, yes, but I'm not telling you anything. I want you to tell me what you're thinking right now. And I said, I keep getting this guy who's in a military uniform, and he's kind of like yelling at me to get your attention, to say, hey, go ahead and sell it, let it go. It's not a big deal. You need to stop worrying about it. Just let it go. And by the way, everything's going to go great. And that's it. And she was super cool about it. And I didn't know this at the time, but after we shared this experience, she told me she was very religious. So she had those mannerisms. After I said that to her, she goes, Jesus Lord Almighty. Oh, yes. She's like, I've been waiting on this for forever. And she got real excited. She started crying, and she goes, both of my parents died, and they died a few months away from each other. My dad was a career military, and we actually pulled over next to the base that he worked at his whole life. And I was like, what? And it was true. There's a base really close to where I live, and she said, this is where he used to work. So it's weird that this is where I decided to pull over. And she said, when they died, they left me the house. I've been having some health issues, which I could feel right away when I got in the car. I felt like she had a cloud over her, She was very like, she was there, but she was somewhere else in her mind. She's like, they left me their house, and I've had some health issues recently. I have a big surgery coming up next week. I'm worried about that, and the house payments are just becoming too much. And my parents own that house forever, and I feel guilty because I don't know if I should keep it and continue to struggle and stress out, or if I should sell it. And my grandkids have offered to buy it, but I don't want that burden on them either. You just answered my question. You just made everything crystal clear. It's okay for me to sell it. I think that's what my dad means by let it go. It's fine. It's not a big deal. Like, it's not worth your help. And by the way, everything will be fine next week. That's when she's getting her surgery or her procedure or something. So she was like, I'm so thankful. I'm so glad I picked you up. You just answered all my questions. I feel so much better. I can't wait to put the house up on the market. And I was like, yay. Please take me home now. Or I can walk, whichever's best. So, but it's so random. It's so random. And I think that's why it makes me so uncomfortable. And being an empath, I can read people, I can read a room. I know when people are uncomfortable, or it just, certain things come easy to me. And I think back then I just didn't know.
All right, there you go. That's a remarkable story. My word. That is the number one question, really, and that is, what happens after we die? Where do we go? Does that question sort of haunt you? Does that inform, maybe motivate you? Is that why you do what you do? The big, the big death question: what happens? What's on the other side?
That's a really great question, Richard. No one's asked me that before at all. And I don't even know if I've considered that. But it has to have some influence on what I do. Sure. I think that, like anyone, we go through life and we experience death. It's a part of life, obviously. And I think when you're connected to the paranormal in any sort of way, especially professionally, those things tend to cross over and dovetail a lot, that exploration of that side of things. And of course, it's compelling, right? The conversations that you have with individuals that have a connection, whether it's synchronistically or not, are able to bring back information that then enriches other people's lives is it completely fascinates me. But I have to say, I'm not as compelled by death as I am compelled by life. I really hold a lot of respect for what's happening right now, being in the present, in the present moment with the people that I'm trying to tell their story, and respect and honor their timeline, and try to leave as much of any of my baggage out of it as possible. And sometimes that has me considering life and death. Sometimes I just have to step back from it and go focus on them and think about, what could be afterwards. But yeah, I think we're all thinking of that, right? Especially as we get older. What's on that other side? Will we see our loved ones again? What do we become, if anything? As the grandson of a preacher, right? Like, those questions are ingrained in you very early on, and also as the grandson of a psychic, you're also you belief in something else that could be out there has been instilled in me from day one. And I like to translate that into just a general wonder and curiosity, disattached from a lot of fear, I think.
Wow, that's quite a lineage, Jim. One grandparent, a psychic, another a preacher.
Yes.
What about after toiling in the vineyards of the paranormal and the unexplained, do you find, because this is happening increasingly to me, that you notice more and more synchronicities in your life?
Yeah, I do. And I also, like a lot of us, have that fear when they go away, right? It can feel really good when you're in the flow with those, and seemingly one thing's leading to the other, and you feel activated by that, especially when you're looking into the paranormal and you're involved in this. When those things go away, that's even more alarming for me, because you feel like, well, am I doing something wrong? Did I go down the wrong way? And, most typically with synchronicities, what's really interesting, and speaking with, friends that are shamanic healers, or even practicing in occult or sorcery, wizardry even, there's a conversation about what is the meaning of synchronicities, and should they always be trusted? And I'll harken back to this fascination I have with Pan. I think synchronicity is a tool set, you know, that embodies the idea of Pan. You know, you will be activated and chased down a synchronicity, and everything will be great until you get to that dead end, and you will get to that dead end. Now, how you respond to that is the most important thing. And when you develop that ability to either say yes and participate, or no, I'm going to back off, is really a powerful thing as well.
Right. I'm not sure what to do with them yet, even at my advanced age. They're like little Easter eggs for me. And a wonderful curiosity. I'll just very quickly give you one that happened to me. I was hosting Coast to Coast last night, and I had Kathleen Marden on. She's the niece, of course, of Betty and Barney Hill, the first widely publicized alien abduction case, and it's the 60th anniversary. And towards the end of the 2-hour segment with her, and I program the music the bumper music that I play on Coast to Coast, actually, and my brother-in-law helps me, and from time to time, and he programmed the music this particular night, and we were playing a song. I don't even remember the band, but it was the song was something called Pressure Concussion or something Concussion. That was the last song we were playing out into the break. And just before we played that, Kathleen was talking about her uncle Barney Hill, and he had died from a brain hemorrhage. And I asked her what caused the brain hemorrhage. Was it the stress of that alien abduction and all the negative publicity it brought him later? And she said no. During the Second World War, he was in close proximity to a hand grenade that went off, and he suffered a pressure concussion. And then I said goodbye, and I roll into that music, and that music was picked, of course, like a week in advance. And that's just one tiny example, but that happens a lot. I don't know what to do with it. I just kind of stand back and am pleasantly amused or delighted by it, really. It's like a little gift from the universe. Jim,
some would say a cosmic link, right?
A cosmic league, indeed. Always a great pleasure. How do we listen to Euphomet, your podcast?
Yeah, you can find Euphomet wherever you listen to podcasts. That's spelled EUPHOMET. You can find me on social media with that too, at Euphomet, EUPHOMET, or at It's Jim Perry. And you can find everything at euphomet.com.
You do terrific work, Jim. These are fantastic podcasts you're putting together. Thank you so much. We'll talk again.
Thank you, Richard. Take care.
All right. Back next week with a brand new show. Hope you'll be along for the ride. In the meantime, don't be afraid. There's nothing concealed that won't be revealed, and nothing hidden that won't be made known. What you hear in the dark, speak in the light. What I say in a whisper, proclaim from the housetops. Move over, Aphrodite. I'm coming home.